Welcome back to episode 55 of the What If It Works podcast. We are in the middle of a series all about trust. I have Sara Gagnon with me again, a relationship coach who's going to really walk us through some steps today to get clear on when trust is broken. If you have not listened to the previous episode, episode 54, we talked all about what is trust. What does it feel like when it's broken? And now today, we're going to dive into what steps to take when you have been the one who has been betrayed. And so, what do we mean by that? We mean that you feel like something has happened and someone else has broken trust. And so now you have been betrayed in this situation. Let's talk a little bit about it. First and foremost, Sara, all of a sudden I recognize I am at work and I feel like trust has been broken with somebody. What's the first thing that I should do?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. This is a step that I think people forget that is a step. It's feel your feelings all the way through. And we need to feel our feelings so that we can get organized before we bring it to a meeting with like this person. So, feelings that you might be feeling, number one is probably anger, and it shows up and it's pretty revengeful and it has a lot of ideas and it wants you to take action. Like, we don't really want to edit or delete anger. I want you to actually feel through your anger so you can see what kinds of actions it's prompting you to want to do, like bring it to the person or just sit and stew or talk to somebody about it. What we want to know about anger, though, is that it's a primary emotion. It is just it's a protector, and it is usually protecting something really soft. So what I tell my clients to do is when they feel anger, go ahead and feel that rage. And then when they're done, can they look behind anger and see what it's protecting? It's usually protecting an emotion that's a little softer, not less important, but something that needs protection, like maybe disappointment is really what you're feeling in the betrayal or the trust issue, or embarrassment, or there's now a void where there used to be something like a friendship, or a heaviness to it. It's hard to explain. But usually, if you can find the softness behind the anger, that's going to help you with the conversation that needs to come later when you actually work with that person. So this step is critical to getting to that headspace with the person before you meet with them, because I usually tell people, if you can't visualize having a conversation with the person right next to you, like you have to have a piece of furniture in between you and the other person, you're not ready. You're still in anger. You haven't found the other emotion behind yourself. How are you feeling about
Yes.
that?
Oh my
You
gosh.
like it?
Woo! I feel like that could be a whole
Yeah.
episode because I was sitting over here feeling a little uncomfortable with sitting in those feelings. I feel like as a child, I was raised like you just move forward, just move forward. Like, don't simmer on
Yeah.
those feelings. The phrase you just said that just got me was
Mhm.
anger comes up with a lot of ideas.
Yeah. Right? It's so
It
wild. I mean,
does.
it does, because it's trying to
And it,
protect you. So it's
yes.
a good
And
emotion. You
some
should
of
feel
us,
it. Hmm.
yeah. And some of us run with those ideas because we let
Mm.
anger be in the driver's seat. And
Yeah.
then we take action on all those ideas instead of what you suggested, which I love. It's like sitting in it, feeling it, and then looking around for like, what is it protecting? I've never heard it described that way. And
Oh,
man, that feels really real.
here's another way to tell, like to not tell, but allow anger to be just showing up first, and then remind yourself to reflect. Anger is super immature. It's our toddler self. So I don't think you want to go to a meeting with someone you love, like in a partnership. I don't think you want to go to a meeting in your workplace as your toddler self. I don't think we want
Yeah.
to show up that way. So let your toddler self have a tantrum, like freak out on the floor, do, the whole bit. And then when you're done, take a step back, look behind the anger, find the soft emotion that's really driving the train there, and then hold that as you continue on with these next steps.
Such great advice for everyone listening. Nobody wants their toddler self in the boardroom.
No, how
Such a
embarrassing.
great visual too. Like
I've
I
done it,
can picture,
but
yes, well,
I've done
yes,
it.
haven't we all? So
Yeah.
I love that, and just reflecting on who do you want showing up in front of others, and
That's right.
addressing this situation. So good. Okay, so we feel the anger, then we
Yep.
look for those other emotions. What are we really doing in that, right? So like sitting and reflecting and
Yeah.
recognizing what's going on. Tell me about that step.
So once you find out what's behind the anger, you're going to hold that feeling with you throughout the next couple steps, like Anne has just said. What we need to do is we need to figure out if we need to take action or just like reflect. Meaning, do we need a real one on one, or can I take care of this on my own? And I was thinking about this, and I don't want to quantify things, but I think we can a little bit. There's a qualitative measure to this and a quantitative measure to this. I'm thinking that if you're reflecting in your soft emotions and it's a big offense, like a big company secret came out that you didn't, you're like, whoa, or a family secret or something that you entrusted and it's big. And this is, even though it may be the first offense, if it's that big, I think it requires a one on one. The other thing I was thinking about is if there's minor offenses, and I kept thinking about Anne's question, do you know the person well enough? If you're still thinking about that question, like, oh, this is a minor offense, or I have a red flag with this person, it's not really a huge thing that I'm hearing, but I don't feel right about it. I think that that can be done solo. You can start to kind of make a decision about what you're going to do with the trust issue on your own. But if it's a big offense, I think um, it doesn't matter how many times. If it's a big enough trust betrayal or trust issue, you can go for that one on one meeting with that person. What are you thinking, Anne?
Yeah. No, I love this. I was just thinking in my head that when it is a big issue, having that one-on-one meeting, and then in that evaluation of, can I continue moving forward? Going back to your questions at the last episode,
Mm-hmm.
can I work with this person again and trust them? And if your answer is no, I'm hearing you
Oh,
say, then we need a
yeah.
meeting. But if your
Yes,
answer is, man, that person broke my trust, but I really don't think it'll happen again, then yes, reflect within, maybe think about shifting some of your actions because that's what you can control. And,
that's right.
just kind of going back at it and doing the work. And if that situation comes back up again, maybe that requires a meeting, but not necessarily needing a meeting for every single little thing, but asking those questions. Can I move forward with this individual? Can I trust this individual to do a task again? If your answer is yes, probably then the meeting isn't what we're looking at. Now
Yeah.
help me understand, Sarah, what happens when I feel like this is a huge betrayal, a huge breach in trust,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm worried the other person doesn't see it that way.
Yeah. Well, like humans do, we verbally process usually before we go to the person that's broken our trust, right? Like if something happens at work, we'll go home and blab about it. If something happens between a friendship, we'll call the other friend. Family member, same thing. Yes. So we're looking for validation as human beings. That's okay. And sometimes the person that we turn to about the trust issue may not agree with us because for them, it's not a violation of betrayal or trust. But for you, it's still feeling like that. So still listen to yourself, get that feedback, put it through your filters. It may help you make a decision on whether or not you want to take it forward, depending on the information that you get from the person that you're trusting with this information as you have this time to verbally process with them. But even if they don't get it and you still feel very strongly about it, trust your gut instincts and move forward with what you think is best because not everybody's going to get it.
And really remember, when you are verbally processing with someone, tell them that, hey, I had this situation at work and I just need to verbally process. Can I like vomit on you, just so I can get your perspective? That is
Mm-hmm.
totally okay. I would caution you to be careful doing that with another individual who does work with you, because
Yes.
they do have a different perspective about this other work employee. But absolutely, if you have a spouse that you trust their opinion and their perspective, another friend who doesn't work with this individual, allow yourself that time to verbally process. Thank you for saying that, by the way. As a
Hmm.
100% verbal processor, I need
Same.
to be validated that I can go do that, but
Hmm.
then come back to the individual. Okay, let's put on our big kid pants and talk about
Okay.
having this meeting. It takes courage. We know that,
Hmm.
but help us walk
Yeah.
through that. Betrayal is there. We have lost trust in this individual. How do we go approach them and have a conversation?
Well, let me first say that we're talking about the point of view of a person who's been betrayed. And really, it would be great if the offender who did this trust thing to you knew about it, reflected, and did this big work. But that doesn't always happen. And sometimes we do have to find wildly courageous bravery somewhere in our bones and schedule the meeting. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I just want to make sure that your listeners know how brave it is to be in a trust position where you've been betrayed and then you're the one asking for the meeting. That's crazy brave, right?
Crazy brave. I love it.
Me too. So here's what you can do. First steps to you need to ask for the meeting. So I'm going to kind of speak in a formal setting, and we're going to set up a scenario that I think most people have been in this situation where you find out that people are talking about you at work behind your back, and it's not that great. Like it's kind of negative about this or that at work. It doesn't feel that good to be talked about and to find out. And then you hear who's doing it. And then you lose a little bit of trust with the person who's talking about you, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So that's the scenario we'll be working with as we walk through the steps. The first thing we need to do is to formally ask for the meeting. So in a work environment, I suggest my clients to, state, "Dear so and so," you want to use really respectful language and you want to be calm. Again, we want to be in the space of that emotion that's behind the anger. We're not going to be angry typing. Um, so this is the magic phrasing. You ready? You're going
I'm
to type
ready.
out, "I've realized something about myself and I really want to share it with you. When is a good time to do that? Let me know. Sincerely, Sarah." That's the message.
Love
And if
this.
this is a relationship, you can take that into an informal text and send that off in, I don't know, a text, or you can speak from the other room and say, "Hey, I've realized something about myself. I was wondering when you have time to chat tonight." You can do it in an
Love
informal
that.
or formal situation. Okay. So we're going to move forward saying that the person agreed to meet with you. Okay.
Perfect.
So you've set a time to meet. And what we're doing is coming in to this space with this person. They are probably going to come in hot and heavy, even though the wording in your email is very peaceful. And it I like the wording because it doesn't initiate the the defense in the other person. It doesn't
Yeah.
make them start to have to build up, "Okay, well, what do I need to bring to this meeting? What do I need to have in my head to like combat so that I'm ready?" Because you just
Yes.
showed them that I'm coming with something I want to share with you. So basically, they just have to show up in their person. So
Yeah.
the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start with that language again and just say, "Thank you so much for showing up. I really appreciate that. And I wanted to share something that I realized about myself." So, one of the things that has actually happened to me is that I have noticed that sometimes people would talk about me behind my back because I would stall meetings. Meetings would go slower because I needed all the details. I could not see
Ooh.
the picture for people unless I had all of the logistics mapped out. I just couldn't think big
Okay.
picture. And so some people found that annoying. Totally get it. What I do is I start by finding something that I can apologize for or share with the person that has never been shared. So I'm doing this big vulnerability movement with this person in front of me that's betrayed my trust. But what I'm trying to do is initiate compassion. I'm trying to open myself up. I'm trying to be
Mm,
vulnerable. And you know what, Anne? Every single time I do that, people end up sharing something back or apologizing right then and there.
yes.
It's wild what you can accomplish when you start with, yeah, you know what? I forgot to tell you, I really can't move on. And I'm sure this is annoying. It would be really helpful for other people to know that I need all the details before we go to big picture. And I just wanted to let you know that I totally get that about myself and I'm willing to share it with the group. What are your thoughts, Anne?
Yeah. Oh, what I love about this is I feel like most of us don't love one-on-one meetings. And so we
Yeah,
do come with a nervous energy, maybe with walls already built. They're already
yeah,
up. And you're
yep.
just kind of waiting, like we talked in the last episode about like waiting for like the other shoe to drop. So what I love about you saying is by being vulnerable, you initiate compassion. You're about to
Mm-hmm,
share something about yourself that is
mm-hmm,
open and new, like you said, to open the door to understanding. And I feel like the way you just worded that, if you brought that to me, I would be like, oh my goodness, thank you for saying that. I have
yeah,
noticed
right?
in meetings that you want a
Mm-hmm,
lot of details, and I have never thought of it that way. Right. So
mm-hmm.
now I'm able to be like, oh my gosh, she knows this about herself, which also
Yes.
makes me feel that you are a confident individual. So it's not like you're lowering yourself. I worry about that sometimes of people feeling like they have to be less than to have these
Mm-hmm.
courageous conversations. And I
No.
feel like you just said, show up with courage and confidence, but
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, not an
That's right.
arrogance, a
Nope.
confidence of this is
Yep.
who I am.
And I just want to
I'm
explain
sorry if
it to you in
that
a calm setting. Right.
yes, and we're in this lowered, defense strategy in a sense, and you're able to say, "I'm really sorry about that." And again, as someone if it were me that were the
Mm-hmm.
offender, I would feel like I can now see you for why you
Mm-hmm.
do that and
Mm-hmm.
understand that and maybe start to open up to you about why that has been frustrating. We only have a 20-minute staff meeting. So it
That's
is
right.
difficult, right? And like I said, the goal here is that hopefully I open up. And I might
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
And you might not. So, one of the things that I forgot to say was you can do this at any point, but I do think it's wonderful in the one on one, either right before you share your vulnerability statement or at the end, you can let the person know. I want you to give them permission not to respond. You don't have to talk back. You don't have, not talk back, but you don't have to respond to what we're talking about right now. You can definitely take this and go think about it and we can talk again. But I just really want to thank you for holding space. Like it should be a quick meeting. It should not be very long
Yeah.
because this should all be thought out beforehand. And I want you, the betrayed,
Betrayed.
to be in control of the meeting. I want you to have that.
Yeah.
You're gaining that control back by giving permission for people to do what they want to do, and it will feel so good for everybody in the room. So that's one way that you can end the meeting is just say, no, no, no need to respond right now. Let me know if you want to talk further about it. And thank you so much
Yeah.
for listening. Or, and there's other ways you can end it as well. We talked about.
Yeah. I also really like the idea of you don't need to respond right now. I am someone who very quickly processes. If you were bringing this to me while you were
Mhm.
speaking, I would be running through my Rolodex of memories from previous meetings, picking out ideas of when I feel like you had done that. Right? Like this is how my brain works very quickly and I process very fast. And I have been in meetings with people who don't process quickly and
Yeah.
I have gotten frustrated because I'm like, right? You hear me? What are your thoughts? And I like get a little I don't even know the word.
Yeah.
Where I like almost demand a response. So what I
Yeah.
love you saying is starting out with, "Hey, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I want to share something about myself and there is no need for you to respond. Today, I would just love to share this and have you hear it from my perspective. And then you
Yes.
share that vulnerability.
Yes.
And then wrapping up that meeting. Okay, so Sara, let's run through this. You share this with me, and I smile and I nod and I say, thank
Hmm.
you for sharing.
Hmm.
How do we end that? Are we okay right there?
I'm okay with that. That's one thing that I'm okay with. Just
Yeah.
showing up and sharing what you need to share, saying thank you for listening, and that's it. Just be
Yeah.
confident and practice. Maybe even practice that ahead of time. Just saying thank you for listening.
Yes.
Thank you for showing
Yeah.
up.
Let's talk through they listen and then they
Hmm.
respond and they're defensive.
Yeah.
What would you say to that? I come back with, well, we only have 20 minutes in those meetings. And you talking and needing details, it really wastes a lot of time. What would you say how would you stay calm in that situation and again, not get defensive and really keep the meeting being productive?
I would probably just stay on topic and just say, and that's the reason why I wanted to talk to you because I know it does frustrate you and it can be irritating. So I thought if I shared this about me, because the more we know about each other, I think the more compassion we'll have for one another. So that's why I wanted to share this with you.
Yeah.
I would just
And
repeat it again, almost like it,
I
because
love
they're in toddler mode, right? Like they're in angry
yes.
toddler mode because they're
Oh,
getting
thank you for
defensive.
pointing
So then I have to become parental and then just stay calm. And
Mm,
what do we do with toddlers that are, I want a popsicle, I want a popsicle, or demanding things? We repeat things in a calm way and try to reset the conversation, right?
so good. You're so much more mature in this area, and I love your expertise on this
This is
because
this is not where I
yes,
started,
it's
Anne. This
so
this is something
hard.
I learned. Yes.
That's true.
This,
We're all
yeah,
growing, we're all
that's right.
learning, and we're all doing better each conversation. Yes, so
Hmm.
much. So great. Something I do train with my clients on is wrapping up the conversation with an action step. But
Hmm.
I do really respect and appreciate a new perspective of let's let it go for now. It doesn't need to be all
Hmm.
about action, Anne. And I do think sometimes I get a little focused on like, okay, so what's next? But one thing, if you're feeling confident in this situation, maybe you've talked to this individual before, and now you're going to try this new approach. And you feel like the conversation goes really well, wrapping it
Hmm.
up with, thank you so much for listening. In the future, if we feel like projects have not gotten done in the way that we expected, if you could have a conversation with me, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Right. And so just kind of giving a next step, letting them
Hmm.
know that we're recognizing this occurred. We don't want it to happen again, but if it does happen again, here's something we
We
can
have a
do about
plan.
it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
a plan. And I think that can help people feel more confident, but I also agree that sometimes having this conversation, could you imagine if this was a conversation with your boss? A lot of times our leaders can break our trust and we feel
Yeah.
betrayed by that. So that could be a really courageous situation of you going in and having this
Yes.
conversation. And no, we don't expect you to walk away being like, so next time that this happens, I am going to, right?
Yeah.
But we want you to be prepared and feel confident to say that if you are nervous about this happening
If
again.
that scenario did happen and we walked into our manager or leader's office with this conversation, wouldn't we hope that like really good leaders are out there and they're saying, what should we do next time? And even pose that question. Wouldn't
Yes.
that be amazing?
Yes.
I would love that.
Absolutely. That was something I was going to say earlier is, maybe asking if that person came back super defensive, and said to you
Hmm.
like, "Well, you do take a lot of time and we don't have a lot," you being able to say something like, "Next time that we are getting to big picture, would you like me to set up a meeting afterwards so I can get some of those details one-on-one
Perfect.
with you? Or how would you
Yeah.
like me to handle that?" Right? And yeah, you're
Oh,
kind of
I
putting the
love
ball
it.
back in their court of like,
Hmm.
help lead me on how this could work for both of us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, we have a challenge for our
Hmm.
listeners today. We really want you after last episode we wanted you thinking about where has trust been broken, and now we really want to challenge you to have the meeting. If in your reflection you felt like, man, there is some broken trust. I don't want this individual doing tasks for me, or I find myself micromanaging them because I don't trust that they're going to get things done, or I don't trust that this person isn't talking behind my back. We want to encourage you to have the meeting. Now, Sara started out saying, really going through feel those feelings. I love journaling. So get out a piece of paper. It could be a small piece of paper you're going to throw away later, but you're
Yeah.
just emptying that brain and writing out, like, what is it that is frustrating you? Just unload that onto something else, and not
Yep.
another individual, but reflect, journal on the situation. I love when Sara said, get to that feeling behind the anger and then schedule that meeting. Other thoughts, Sara?
I just want to remind the listeners that it is a very brave thing to do any of this work. To feel
Mm,
your feelings can be to slow down and not react is so hard. So
yeah.
even just if you do step one differently, and that's like a different process than what you would normally do, we are very proud of you. So even just doing that one step of feeling your feelings all the way through to find out what's behind anger, it's just that this is a very tough thing to do, and we give you props all the way. We're here with you.
1,000%. And let's talk about, what if it works? What if
Mm,
you sit down, you journal out your thoughts, and then you
yeah.
go have the meeting? Sara, what can they gain from doing this with someone who's broken their trust?
Well, the first thing that came to mind is you now have a system for any other trust or betrayals that occur in your life. How cool is that?
Yes.
You don't have to feel
Yes,
messy
1,000%.
and chaotic. You have a controlled system with the messiness of the feelings. You also will gain a little bit more, I think, confidence and um, uh, knowing self a little bit more, and our value is restored. You get a little bit more
Mm,
peace.
yeah.
How about you, Anne?
Well, I just want to say, and what if you gain that? You gain a system, you gain
Mm-hmm.
confidence, you gain practice in utilizing this with one individual so that, like she said, when it comes up to another one, and you gain value in yourself and you gain some joy back. What
Huge.
more do we want? Yes, in our
Slam dunk.
relationships,
Yeah.
at work. That feels so good. I absolutely
Mm-hmm.
love that. We talked about a lot today and we went through kind of a process and a system that Sara just mentioned. And so, Sara, what do we have for the listeners so that they can utilize this information in a maybe a little more organized way?
Sure. So we're going to have two things for listeners to download. One is from episode one to see if it is a trust issue. We went through some statements that you can go through almost to help you build that filter inside of yourself to see, is this a trust issue? Can I figure this out on my own, or do I need to set up a meeting? And then we are also going to provide you with a flow chart of what to do to set up the meeting, like a step-by-step process.
That'll be in the show notes. You can find that today and download those so you can have them at the ready. Our big goal here on the What If It Works podcast is to help you feel confident and clearly communicate with other people so that you can create a thriving environment that you want to be in, and so do other people. And so that's exactly what we're doing here. Next episode, we are going to be talking about when we know that we've betrayed someone else. We know
Mm-hmm.
we've taken an action that has broken trust with another individual. So we're going to get really vulnerable next week because that is hard to hold ourselves accountable, but we have a way for you to feel confident in having
Mm-hmm.
those conversations and hold yourself accountable to having those conversations
That's
so
right.
that you can come out on the other side feeling really great. Thank you, Sara, so much for being here and your insight and your perspective. I truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Anne.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening, and keep going out there and creating change.